Thanks, Ronan. Big pressure there, expert advice on connecting with communities. We're delighted to be here today and to speak about this. And I suppose at the root of everything we do is people. Whether it's buildings or programs, what we do is really about connecting with people and building networks. So hopefully what we speak about today, some of it is on quite a large scale, but that there might be small parts of that resonate with you, and it give you some ideas for things that you could do locally as well. Oh, I have to click it on. So just a little bit of context about who we are. So the Culture Company was established by Dublin City Council, and what we do is we work on cultural participation and cultural engagement projects and programmes. So our team is quite diverse, so it's a really interesting team made up from a mixture of different backgrounds, expertise and experience from across different areas. So we've got areas of production, community engagement, programming, history, policy, project management, heritage, finance, research, and on all of those things. And they're really important to us about how each of those individual skills helps build up the company. My own role in particular, I'm the head of engagement, so I would be working a lot with community engagement, different community groups across our buildings and our programmes. Why we were created, which will tell you a little bit about what we do. So we work in a developmental, experimental, responsive and participative manner with partnership at the core. So it's really important to us that we give people a chance to experiment and develop and try new things with us in a really fun and easy and enjoyable way. We work on themes that are relevant and sourced through engagement of people who work, live and visit Dublin. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we do that, but what's really at the core of what we do is listening to people and taking what they say into different aspects of how we work on our programmes. We work through co-creation and cooperation, aiming at leaving a social impact, and we aim for quality through expertise, inclusion and participation. Sorry. Now we're on the right slide. There's too many things to do at once. So what we do, so we run buildings. So some of you hopefully are familiar with some of the buildings we run, which is 14 Henrietta Street, which is our museum. We also run Richmond Barracks, which is a cultural centre in Dublin 8. And we run a large number of programmes across the city of Dublin, some of which we've just highlighted here are our Tea and Chats programme, which I'll speak to you about in a little while. Culture Club, which is our programme, hopefully maybe some of you have heard of, which is really about going out together and experiencing things across the city in different cultural institutions and galleries and museums. And Your Tenement Memories, which is our programme for collecting oral histories. So that's connected to the building in 14 Henrietta Street. And we use the Your Tenement Memories programme to reach out to people who've either lived in that building or in the surrounding areas, the street, who have their own experiences of tenement life, maybe through their family or through their own experiences, and we collect their memories. And that is what feeds back through to 14 Henrietta Street and the way we work in 14 Henrietta Street through our tours and our talks and our programmes that we put on there. We're in sync now. So just a little bit about our way of doing things, which I think is interesting and hopefully might be able to inspire you as well. So we've developed an infrastructure that puts people at the centre of our work. And how we do this is through listening and responding. So we listen, so to learn what's important to the people of Dublin. Then we respond to that. So we programme responsively based on what we learn. And we always go back to check this, so we keep listening and responding to make sure that our work remains relevant. And we also like to test new methods, so we use our approach to be able to test out new things, to try new things with people, to help invite people to come along and to try something new with us. And this is our approach to how we work with people. So this diagram shows that as well. So this idea, I suppose, for us of people always at the centre. And I think this kind of a model could be adapted quite easily, whether it's a large group or a museum or a really small community group that you're working with. So this idea of people at the centre, always listening first. So listening, whatever stage you're at of the process, you're listening. So we're listening always first. we're maybe going to something together through Culture Club. We're going to an event, or we're going along to something together. We could be trying something out for the first time, so really inviting people in to try something out, to do something new that they haven't done before, and then perhaps going on to something more long term, so a making project, so a longer term project. Some of our projects would last a number of weeks, and some of our projects would last over a number of years, where we would do an in-depth piece of work with a community group. And I suppose the flexibility of this is really important, so that you can come in at different points if you're only interested in trying something out once, or actually you're interested in getting involved in something much more longer term, that there's a place for you. There's different entry points and different levels of accessibility for different people. And then just to highlight, I suppose, one of our programmes is called Tea and Chats, and it is as simple as it sounds. So it's really about going out, meeting people, meeting community groups where they already meet. So if a community group meets at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday in the local hall, that's where we'll go to meet them. We sit down with them, we'd let them know about us and what we do, and we would have a cup of tea and a chat. And we really have the conversations and the facilitation of these conversations. We really want to find out what is meaningful to people who consider Dublin home. What is it they like to do? Why do they come together? What groups are they involved in, and what interests they have? And it's a really, really basic, open-ended conversation with a cup of tea and a chat, just about those things. We then take what we learn from this and feed it back into our programme. So it could be that actually we'll programme something in Richmond Barracks that's based on what a local group is interested in. We might meet someone out that is available or has interest in doing a talk for us that we can invite in. Or we actually might use that information to pass on to our partners. So we may talk to some of our partners in cultural institutions and tell them, actually, this is what local groups are saying at the moment, and this is what they're finding difficult, or this is what they're interested in. But I think that model of, and it's quite a, an Irish thing, let's have a tea and a chat, it just works really well to bring people in, to sit down and to just have a conversation about things that are important to them. I think the next slide is a video. So this is going to just a couple of people that we've worked with over the years, I suppose, explaining probably in a better way than I've just done about our process of working, and really that idea, I suppose, of listening and then responding to what we hear.
Culture Company have such an incredible understanding of what a community is, meeting them where they are at and actually listening to them.
They seem to really listen to the people in Dublin about what they want and what they would like.
This idea of listening and taking the lead from the community. Any work I've done in community arts has involved an element of that, but with the Culture Company it was taken to a different level.
There's a huge amount of conversation that happens with each individual group, because Culture Company really understands the idea that each group is unique.
I'd say one of the main things I've taken from working with the Culture Company is to keep going back to people and asking them what they think, because people change their minds, and that's great.
It's responding to what the community is looking for, getting them to participate in shorter, maybe one-off things, and then going back to the community, having more conversations, opening that up to involve maybe a deeper look.
I've been humbled by the way things have turned out, and the respect I've been shown at every turn.
They just didn't decide this is the way it's going to be. They actually listened to everybody. It's very important to engage with the people, because it was the people who helped to produce it as well.
There's something about the act of asking in which a new idea is formed in its own right. It's not as if people have their ideas out there and you just go and discover them. Having a conversation will change people's ideas, change your ideas and their ideas.
Sometimes it would take 1 or 2 meetings and you get a very clear idea of where they wanted to go, and other times it could take months of just showing up, having tea with people, listening, and gradually together coming up with an idea for a project that they'd like to do.
It's not just about collaborating, it's about co-creating something together, and that becoming much more meaningful.
Great. Hi. Perfect. So hello, so my name is Dervilia, so I also work at Dublin City Council Culture Company. So hopefully the video has given you a sense, I suppose, of some of the projects that we do, and Laura's laid out some of what we do as well. My job, I suppose, is a bit more specific. I work as the historian in residence for children across Dublin. So I suppose we thought I'd talk a little bit about my work, I suppose, as an example of one of the programs that we run in the Culture Company, and also as an example of the way we engage with children. But it's a similar kind of approach to what we do with grown-ups as well. Again, it's all about listening and co-creating and working with people. So to explain a little bit about my job, so as I said, I'm Dervilia. I work as historian in residence for children, and that role came about in 2020, so I've been in the role now for a couple of years. And the idea is that it's to connect children around the city. It's based in the Dublin City Council area. Connect children to history, basically, through any kind of way that we can do it, that they want to do it, any way that works, through projects and activities, and that they might develop lifelong connections to history through what we do. And I'm mostly based at Richmond Barracks, which is one of the buildings I know Laura mentioned there, so that's an Inchicore in Dublin 8. But I work across the city, work through libraries, schools, and lots of other ways as well, mostly with the 9 to 12 age group. And then again, through schools, through family groups. So again, it's about trying to find as many different ways and creating as many different opportunities for children to engage through that. And it's in partnership with libraries. So it's between the Culture Company and Dublin City Libraries. That's kind of what a lot of my work looks like. The photo's a bit outdated now, as you can tell with the masks. But just to give you a sense, it's mostly kind of these kind of history workshops where we're kind of working together, a lot of discussion, a lot of activities, and led by the children, kind of wherever possible. So just to explain, I suppose, a little bit about that. The kinds of things that we would do. So I have a public programme of workshops at Richmond Barracks, workshops and sometimes longer projects with primary schools around the city as well. Children's History Book Club is something that I run too. Also summer camps, things during the Dublin Festival of History. Sometimes we create self-guided history resources for children. So again, it's all just about that mixture of activities and creating different ways for children to engage. Because some of these ways are going to work for some children and some of them are going to work for other children. And it's just about creating all of those different ways in, I suppose, to what we're doing. And I suppose the process that I use, just like Laura explained with the Tea and Chats programme and everything else that we do in the Culture Company, it's about listening. So listening, responding and co-creating. So the topics, the themes and the activities that I do in my workshops and my projects, they're all drawn from listening to children and talking to children. So there's loads of different ways to do this. And I've kind of listed a few of the ways that I suppose I do it through my work. So when I started out in the job in 2020, the first thing I did was just have loads of conversations with children, through school groups, through family groups, and I used everything kind of from those conversations to inform what I would do, the kind of activities that we would do. But then, as we kind of said with other things that we do in the Culture Company, it's an ongoing thing. So there's chats at the beginning, but then ongoing chats as we go on. So every time I have a workshop with kids, I'm asking them for more ideas and I'm observing kind of what seems to be working and, letting them kind of give me the ideas for what we do next. Other ways then, things like surveys, which we often get children to fill out, but also parents and teachers as well, and then other ways of collecting ideas from children. So like even in things like drawings, taking votes on things, taking polls, getting them to write things on sticky notes, things like that. So again, it's about creating lots of different ways for them to express their views. So again, a lot of it would be discussion based, but with children as well, it's important, I think, just to have those different options so that they might not all want to have a discussion, but some of them might prefer to write about it. Some of them might prefer to do a drawing. And even from that, you can kind of maybe get a sense of what's on their mind. So it's child-led where possible, I suppose. So that's kind of what the point we wanted to kind of make. And then I was going to give a few examples of some of those projects that I do and the way that they've kind of been co-created with children. So the Children's History Book Club, I think, is a good example. So we meet once a month and we talk about a different book every month that's a children's book that we've read, and it has to kind of relate to history in some way. But the children in the book club choose them, so they've recommendations that they've heard of, or basically they're kind of choosing what we read. They contribute ideas for what we do, for games and activities. They contribute the ideas for things like special meetups where we've met authors like Marita Conlon McKenna. We had an event with her. Things like that, and that all came from kind of talking to kids and knowing what's really important. to them. And it also came from talking to children about history in general and realising that a lot of children are engaging with history through historical fiction, often more so than in school and things like that. Like, it's often where they really get like a passion for a particular time in history. So yeah, I suppose I'm just kind of showing that that's the kind of process that we use with some of these things. Another example would be, this is kind of still an ongoing thing, but co-creation of school tours of Golden Bridge Cemetery, which is a historical cemetery just beside Richmond Barracks. So we also run tours of that cemetery kind of through Richmond Barracks. So currently working on developing a school, like a tour of this that's tailored towards primary school children. But again, to do that, we worked with children. So it wasn't just like us coming up with a script and saying, this is what we think children would like. We brought in a school group, and I did like quite a long, like in-depth project with them, met up with them 3 times. So before their tour of the cemetery, also went on the tour with them, and then after again met up with them. So it was like a 3-session thing. I collected lots of feedback from them during it, so it was like lots of discussions. Again, it was asking them to write about, you know, their favourite part of the tour, other things that they wanted to find out from it, using sticky notes, drawings, group activities, lots of that kind of thing. So again, it's just about gathering all of that feedback from them, and now we're kind of putting that together for our script for our children's tours. So yeah, again, just co-creating, I suppose, in that way. And another project, kind of my third example and final example, is it was a lockdown project. So it was a video project. It was when we did an open call for children to send in videos. It was when we were exploring our local 5 kilometres, I think it was, if we all remember that time. And this was kind of an idea that came about as a way for us to kind of communicate with children during lockdown, but also to encourage them to explore their local area, because as we know, there's history and heritage everywhere around us. So it was left really, really open. We basically did an open call and said, for children who want to take part, you know, go out and record something in your local area, and send it in to us. And it can be, you know, you telling me about your local area, or it can be you asking me a question. You know, again, left it totally open to them. And we got this lovely selection of videos back, and some of it was them telling me things they already knew about their local area, and sometimes it was them asking for more information or asking me to, you know, help them understand something. And so then I recorded my responses to them, and then we made a video out of that and we put it on YouTube as well. So again, it was just that little collaborative process, I suppose, between us, and very much led again by the children. So another brief thing, this kind of was a little bit before my time in the Culture Company, but just it's another example of the work that we do with children through the company. As Laura mentioned, we also run 14 Henrietta Street, which is a museum probably a lot of you have been to, hopefully. You should go, we'd recommend it. And the visits to 14 Henrietta Street, it's a historic house. It was a Georgian house that later became a tenement building. The visits are by guided tours, and they're very much about the stories of the people who lived in that house. As we said, very much taken from the tenement memory programme that we have. But we also developed school tours, or my colleagues did before I was in the company. They developed school tours for this, which again were made with children. So the way that was done is that school groups were invited in for special days after the opening of the museum about 5 years ago. And we used the reports from them to inform the content and the format of the school tours. And then they were further developed through co-curation sessions, so where the children are going on the tours, and then afterwards they sit down, they have a juice and chat, so it's like our tea and chats programme, but juice and chats with children. And then from that, again, lots of discussion, lots of gathering ideas, and then that's what informs the actual kind of tour script. So it's really collaborative with these children and with teachers as well, which is also really important. And then, like we said, it's ongoing. So ongoing feedback, reviewing it every so often, making sure that it's still relevant. So it's not just a static thing. We're testing things again, and we're improving things as we go on. But I think they're kind of all the examples that I was going to talk about. And then just to bring it back to the image that we looked at a few slides ago that Laura showed us again. So that image of how can you put people at the centre of what you're doing, and how can you make it about listening, and you know, whatever you're doing to bring in kind of people and listening into that. So I suppose we thought that we'd kind of leave you with with 2 questions for how you might be able to bring this into your events. There's loads of different ways you can do it, and obviously you're all different organisations and individuals of different sizes and different resources and things, but it's a very simple idea at the centre of it. It's listening to people, putting people first. And I suppose you can think about how can you listen to people in order to make your events for Heritage Week responsive? So how can you program things that are based around listening to people? But likewise, you can use your Heritage Week event to form a longer project, maybe, if that's something that some of you are doing, in which case you can use the event itself as a listening tool, or a way to find out from people that you can build on that then, if that makes sense, to use it as a listening event for a further follow-on kind of project, I suppose. So there are lots of ways to do it, and I think even for us, we're still always learning better ways to do it. It's kind of an ongoing thing. It's kind of a new process, I think, to most organisations to work this way. So nobody is perfect at it. So if it seems a bit intimidating at first, like, I wouldn't worry, because the idea at the centre of it, I think, is quite a simple one.